welcome to another Thoughts on Leadership. This session, I got to thinking a bit about what is important. What is important in life? What is really are the important aspects of things that we're dealing with? It's very easy to get dragged into what's going on and lose focus about what is really important. In fact, we can do this in all aspects of our lives. We forget what's important to our well-being, to our health, to our relationships, to our family, to our work relationships, and so forth. We easily get sidetracked, in other words. And I was thinking about this whole aspect of importance. And I was also thinking about it in terms of what leaders need, because great leaders are people who constantly keep their mind fixed on what the real issues are and what's important to them. Focusing on what's important rather than being important is a subtle differentiation that I really would like to drive home. Because I find many leaders and people in leadership positions who get wrapped up in being important rather than focusing on what is important. So I thought I'd spend a few minutes on it, and if we look at the world that we're living in at this moment and some of the issues that we see as going on in the world, we can realize that what's important gets forgotten in the rush for personal satisfaction, for instant gratification. And in politics, the short-termism is becoming a significant issue in various places in the world. I see it in associations where somebody is president for a year, and it's important that they look good in their year. We see it with government officials. They're only in term of office for a period of time, so it's what makes them look good, or what they makes them look like they're doing things, rather than what are the real issues. What is the real important things that we need to be focusing on? And if we don't balance that in our minds and constantly pull ourselves over to be focused on what's important, then the danger is that we get sidetracked and that we get pulled offline in some way. So I was thinking about this in terms of I was visiting Philadelphia just recently. I managed to spend a couple of days there. Very, very interesting city in the United States, and great session I had with some people over there. But I think one of the moments was when I took some time out to go and look at places where the Declaration of Independence and the first Constitution were written by some of those great people like Benjamin Franklin and so forth. And there was something I was reading while I was there that really struck me. And a point was being made how these people agonized over every word that they put down, carefully considering every word that they were putting down to make sure that it was in line with where they were wanting to go. In other words, they were very focused on what was important here, and not in what was going to look good to them or what was going to be great in the short-termism. I couldn't help but wondering how they would feel if they were here today and looked at the state of the world and looked at the state of the country and realized how what important seems to have got lost in the conflicts that are taking place. I think strong leaders, certainly the ones that I've met, are the ones who focus on what's important and then remain objective. Look at things dispassionately and take an objective point of view to the situation. And it's, in my opinion, it's the lack of the ability to do this that means that people have the lack of the ability to be able to strategize and to plan and to think ahead. Because if we're absorbed in the now, then we're absorbed in short-termism. If we are not focused on the long term, what's really important to us here? And what is the long-term gain that we're trying to get out of this, rather than the instant satisfaction and the importance of feeling good at this moment in time? Yeah, think about it in health terms. We don't even listen to our own bodies. Yeah, I find it something I have to really work on, is to focus on what is important to me in terms of keeping myself fit. With all the traveling I do, what is really important here? All right? Is it enjoying and everything that I see that I like to eat? Or is it important to have a balanced diet and to be ensure I'm eating regularly and eating the right things regularly? Because very quickly I can get absorbed in, oh, I like that, I want that, I need that. And you go very much from like to need if you're not focused on what's important about my eating habits, my sleeping habits, and so forth. So this applies to all aspects of our life, and being good at it means being good at it in all aspects of our life, not just in one. I believe it also helps with conflict. When you're in conflict with somebody, an employee or whatever, then are you always focused on resolving the issue between ourselves, or are we looking at what the long term that we're wanting to achieve here? For instance, if the short-term issue is showing that person up, or not appearing to be bowing to that person in some way, or simply just winning, then we may win, but we may not get the long term. So we can win the war and lose the peace. Probably a touchy thing to say at this moment in time. So, questions for this month. The questions for you are you really focused on what is important? Or are you being focused on what is happening and what is arising around us? Are we letting the issues and the pressures that are coming at us dominate our thinking and dominating our focus, rather than constantly being able to step back and saying, what's really important here? What is the real issue here that we need to be able to deal with? If we're not getting on with somebody, maybe there's an issue at work, maybe there's an issue in the relationship. What's the problem? What's the real, what's important here? The resolving of the conflict, or one winning over the other? And if both sides are focused and see as important that both sides win, then this is just going to cause more heartache, more fear, more problems, more whatever. Whereas if both focus on what's important here, that we get together and we work it out and we find a way through it, that becomes what's important to us. I often reflect on South Africa and the changes that happened in South Africa when it dissolved apartheid. When I'm in South Africa, I always say to groups there, if you could took what you did, what you managed to do in terms of dissolving an apartheid regime and creating a democratic nation and resolving the conflicts that existed and creating the harmony that is largely existent there now, if you could take that and bottle it, you would make a fortune. And what happened? Nelson Mandela and de Klerk, the two of them focused on what was important, not showing one up against the other. It was about what is important here. And at the end of the day, what was important that South Africa became a world player, that it became a country where people of all race, creeds and colours could live and work together. And the two of them, there must have been times when those two gentlemen so much wanted to retaliate for things that they felt and believed in. But they kept themselves online and they focused on what was important for South Africa. And it's largely happened. And even when Mandela became president, he realized that people needed to grieve, people that needed to get some things out of their system. And he created something that allowed people to get over that, because that was important to them at that time. So what is important? Are we asking ourselves the question, have we got the ability to stand back every once in a while and say, what's the real issue here? What is important here? You know, I find myself repeatedly these days saying to people, if someone is not living up to your expectations, is it because you set your expectations too high? Or is it that this person's deliberately and maliciously trying to undermine what you're doing? You know, understanding that can often help you deal with the situation. Jumping to the conclusion that because your expectations haven't been met, well, that it's their problem. You're not focusing on what's important here, and you can get easily sidetracked. So I want you to go away and think about how many times do I need to stop and ask myself this question: what is really important here? And every time issues arrive, asking yourself, what's really the important issue here? Is it the short term, or is it the long term? Am I able to step back and look at it, or do I need to move on? I hope you have a really great month. It's start of a new year for many in terms of business, and I hope last year was a success for you, and that this year that you're going to be focused on what's really important to your business and moving forward. Have a good month. Bye now.